The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Hey there, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of Sports NYC. I'm your host, Bobby C. We've got a jam-packed show on tap. First, we'll move the chains with ESPNNewYork.com sports writer Ian Begley as we check in and provide the latest on the Giants and the Jets. It's also about time for some Heisman talk. We'll flash back and look ahead. Then we'll get you caught up to speed with some of the best local high school and college football action. So don't change that dial. Keep it locked. This is Sports NYC. Now on the program, the Ernest Hemingway of sports writers, ESPN's Ian Begley. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure, Bobby.
Always great to see you on the show. And, without further ado, let's get right into the Giant conversation. How have the Giants been this good this early in the season, and how detrimental now are the losses in Week 10 and Week 11?
You know what? I think those losses are going to sting, Bobby. When you look at the Giants' schedule going forward, they've got New Orleans coming up. They've got Green Bay coming up before a showdown in Dallas on December 11th. Now, going after those two losses, they were tied with the Cowboys at 6-4, top the NFC East. Now, if you look at the Cowboys' schedule, they've got Arizona and they've got Miami before that showdown with the Giants on December 11th. So it seems like the Cowboys have an easier road getting to that game than the Giants do. Should be a big one.
How shocking the loss in San Francisco to be inside the red zone, 10 yards away. Giants come up short, they lose by a touchdown, and then against the Eagles to be again within striking distance after a huge play to Victor Cruz on a 3rd and 3 in the red zone. Manning fumbles and they lose the game.
You know, I think that both of those losses, first of all, have to be soul crushing. And they would affect a team that had a lot of young players more so than they would affect a team with a bunch of veteran players. So I think that if you look at the Giants, they have a mix of veterans, mix of young players. So I think emotionally they'll be able to handle the two losses. But when you talk about what Eli Manning did late in both of those games, that's what worries you, because obviously Manning had carried the Giants through the first 11 weeks of the season. Now, if he can't carry them on through to the end of the regular season and into the playoffs, then they have problems, because as we both saw in that Philadelphia game, they run the ball for just, 29 yards on more than 15 carries, and that's disgusting. I mean, no NFL team can expect to win with that kind of a ground game. So if you have Eli Manning struggling with the combination of that ground game, it's a recipe for disaster.
I think Ian Begley would agree that a Super Bowl winning team has to not only be good, but also be lucky. Earlier in the season, the Giants celebrated their 1986 Super Bowl winning team, the first in franchise history. Let's take a look back.
Fueled by a spiritually uplifting halftime ceremony that honored the 1986 champs, Big Blue's first Super Bowl ring, the current installment of the G-Men played like the heroes of yesteryear, downing St. Louis and former defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo 28-16 on Monday Night Football. The Rams were no match for Giants QB Eli Manning, who threw 2 touchdown passes. The G-Men also tallied a defensive score in the lopsided victory. Linebacker Matthias Kiwanuka said he's inspired daily by the Giant legends.
Guys like Howard Cross, so Antonio Pierce out there. I mean, they make a point to always come up to a lot of different guys, and so that's a weekly thing, not just because they're being honored tonight.
It's just a reminder of what it was all about. As George said and Phil said, it's camaraderie, and it's great to bring everybody back together again, and it's just a good feeling.
Led by Super Bowl MVP Phil Simms, the Giants crushed the Denver Broncos 39-20 on January 25, 1987. 9-time Pro Bowler and Hall of Famer Harry Carson said nothing tops winning the Super Bowl.
It felt like a dream to be with my guys, and we're all getting older now, and it's probably the last time that we'll have an opportunity to get together like that. So I just tried to savor it as much as possible.
Carson's defensive stalwart in arms, fellow Hall of Famer Lawrence Taylor, joined Simms in the loudest reception of the night. LT was back in prime time.
It's always a pleasure to be able to come back to Giants Stadium and know that the fans that you played so hard for, they still know you and respect you, and I'll tell you what, no, it never gets old.
The festivities paved the way for Big Blue's first big win of the season. The Giants will look to keep things rolling at rival Philadelphia this weekend.
So, Ian, in 1986, the Giants were led by Phil Simms. He's Super Bowl MVP. The Giants now have a Super Bowl MVP under center. Can Eli be super again?
I think the Giants are going to need him to be super again to get where they want to be this season. And as we discussed earlier, the Giants offense has lived and died on the right arm of Eli Manning thus far because the ground game has been non-existent. So for them to have any kind of success later this year and into the postseason, that's going to rest on Eli Manning. Now, we've seen Eli look great at times in the first 11 weeks of the year, but then we've seen him struggle. In particular, I'm talking about late in the San Francisco game, the turnover that ended that game, and then late in the Philadelphia game, he had trouble feeling the rush, and Jason Babbitt got him, the ball popped loose, and then it was game over. So those mistakes have proved detrimental to the Giants, and Eli needs to clean that up going forward.
Manning has engineered 5 game-winning drives in the fourth quarter, the most in the NFL. Does he deserve to be in the MVP conversation?
He's absolutely in the conversation. When you talk about most valuable player to a team, you don't get more valuable than Eli Manning is to the Giants, I don't think. Now, where he is in that conversation depends on where the Giants end up at the end of the regular season.
We'll take a quick timeout. When we come back, Ian Begley will tell us more about the other quarterback that shares the same address as Eli Manning.
Packers. Vikings. Packers. Vikings. Vikings.
Red state. Blue state. Vegan.
Carnivore.
We come from different places.
Uptown. Downtown.
Optimist.
We come to different conclusions.
Half empty.
Half full.
But when we live united, we create real, lasting change in the building blocks of life. The education, income, and health of our communities, our families,
United.
even the person next to us.
Live united.
Real change won't happen without you. So give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Sign up at liveunited.org.
Welcome back to Sports NYC. I'm host Bobby C., joined today by ESPNNewYork.com sports writer Ian Begley. We left talking about Eli. We returned talking about Mark Sanchez. Can you diagnose the problems for third-year quarterback Mark Sanchez? What has gone wrong with the Sanchez?
The most alarming thing we've seen thus far with Sanchez, taking a general view of the situation, is that in his third year, he seems to have taken a step back. Now, if you look at the progression of quarterbacks historically, a lot of guys in that third year seem to step up and take their games to the next level. Sanchez, we certainly haven't seen that. If anything, you can point to Sanchez as the reason that the Jets have struggled midway through the 2011 season. They have plenty of pieces on that roster to be a force in the NFL, but I think Sanchez is holding them back.
The Jets lose an amazingly tough game in Mile High in Denver to Tim Tebow and the Broncos. Sanchez throws a pick 6, and then Tebow engineers a 95-yard drive to deliver the heartbreaking loss to the Jets. What has gone wrong with the Jets this season, 2 consecutive years after reaching the AFC Championship game?
I think you can point to plenty of problems on the offensive side of the ball, but one thing I'd like to address is the defense. I think you saw it on Thursday against Denver in the loss that you talked about. The defense has just been inconsistent. It's lacking the killer instinct that the Rex Ryan defense has showed in years past. And it's been inconsistent on a game-to-game basis and even within a game. You saw it on Thursday. The Jets were lights out defensively between the Broncos' first drive and the Broncos' last drive. But then when it counted, Tim Tebow got the ball, marched his team 95 yards down the field for the game-winning score. So when the Jets really needed that defensive step up, it didn't happen.
Ian, be blunt. Will the green and white and big blue make the playoffs this year?
I think the Giants make the playoffs. I don't think the Jets make the playoffs, and I think that's a big problem for Rex Ryan going forward.
It's been a very emotional season for the Jets, to say the least. One that's been filled with several highlights and plenty of lowlights as well. One highlight earlier this season was the 10-year anniversary of September 11th. Let's take a look back here and another Sports NYC Rewind.
On the 10-year anniversary of September 11th, the nation paused for a moment of reflection. Jets quarterback Mark Sanchez said he couldn't think of a better way to honor those who gave their lives for freedom than with a victory on Sunday Night Football. And win. The New York Jets did. An emotionally charged day ended with the most unlikely of comebacks as the green and white edged the Dallas Cowboys 27-24 on a 50-yard field goal by Nick Folk with 27 seconds left.
It was huge for us to honor them and give them their respect before the game started, and there's no question we played with a lot of effort and a lot of pride for our community here in New York, and it felt great just to see all them at the game.
Pre-game and halftime ceremonies honored the tragic events of September 11th, 2001. Jets head coach Rex Ryan used the backdrop for additional motivation.
Shoot, I don't know what to say. I mean, it was just a draining game. I'm just so proud that we were able to pull this thing off for, and for the town as well. I mean, believe me, it's I feel probably better about that than I do even for our football team.
Just came together as a team and did it for the Jets and the nation. And I think by us playing primetime game, that shows that what type of team we are, and we had to represent for New York. I mean, we got to win, so it's kind of a state thing, just to show everybody and show our gratitude.
It was the third time in franchise history the Jets overcame a deficit of at least 14 points in the fourth quarter, but afterward, deservingly so, all of the focus was on the day and where many of the Jets were 10 years earlier.
Having everybody in the stadium, not just in our stadium, but I think across every stadium throughout the NFL. It was just a moment where you can reflect and prayer for those who lost their lives, and thanks for those who put their lives in harm's way to help those who needed help.
To have the opportunity to be on New York's team, it was a thing of great pride for myself and for the guys on the team.
10 years later, life is different now, says Bart Scott.
One great thing that came out of that was the efforts of men and women and true heroes in this country, which is the men that serve. And sometimes we hear the stories of people putting their lives on the line and putting the safeties of others in front of themselves. And that's the ultimate test of a hero. What we do is we play a game, but they allow us to play the game and allow us to be free.
We shift gears from some NFL conversation to some Heisman talk with Ian Begley. I know that last year, Cam Newton, aside from all the stuff off the field, he was definitely the consensus pick for the Heisman. Give us your Heisman watch for 2011. Who will be this year's Heisman winner?
Bobby, I don't think there's a consensus pick this year, and I think that's due in part to what the teams have done. Everybody likes Andrew Luck, but then he went out and he struggled against Oregon. People love LaMichael James from Oregon, but then he goes out and his team loses to USC. So I think that if you look at one team that hasn't stumbled yet, it's LSU. And so the best player and the best candidate on the Tigers is Terrain Matthew, the kid they call the Honey Badger. He's a defensive back who just creates ripples all over the field. He affects the game in so many different ways. And I think as long as LSU wins the national championship, that's the guy that will get the Heisman Trophy.
Is there any chance that another guy with a great nickname, Shoelace Denard Robinson from Michigan, would he creep into the conversation, especially if Andrew Luck and Stanford continues to struggle down the stretch?
Well, I think Denard can certainly creep into the conversation. There's no question with what he brings into the field. He deserves to be in that conversation, but I don't know if he'll be invited to New York for the show, because I don't know if he gets up into the top three when you consider the finalists because of what Michigan has done this year. Good season, not a great season, and I think that hurts Denard Robinson.
Ian, the Heisman announcement coming up on December 10th. Let's take a look back at last year's Heisman winner, Cam Newton.
This is Bobby C. reporting from Times Square. Cam Newton struck the Heisman pose all season long. Tonight, he walked the walk. Newton became the third player in Auburn history to win the honor, joining Bo Jackson and Pat Sullivan as the only other Tiger to claim college football's most prestigious award. The 6'6", 250-pound quarterback from Georgia has guided Auburn to a perfect season while posting ridiculous numbers. Newton ran for an SEC best 1,409 yards rushing and 21 touchdowns on the ground.
And if that wasn't enough, he passed for 2,589 yards more and threw 28 TD passes through the air. He's the first SEC player to run for at least 1,000 yards and pass for at least 2,000 more in the same season. The junior QB, the story of the college football season on and off the field, was a lock for the '76 Heisman Trophy despite scandal. He thanked his mother, his father, and God Saturday night at the Best Buy Theater in New York City.
This whole thing right now is just beyond me right now. I feel like I'm in a dream, and I haven't just woke up yet, and just no, it hasn't even came onto me. What I have just accomplished.
Newton has the top-ranked Tigers primed for a showdown with number 2 Oregon in the BCS National Championship, but his story extends past the gridiron. Last month, the NCAA determined his father tried to peddle him to Mississippi State for cash during the recruitment process. The NCAA cleared him and found no evidence that he or Auburn knew about Cecil Newton's pay-for-play scheme. All the uncertainty didn't keep voters from making Newton an overwhelming choice. Newton received 729 first-place votes, 1,184 ahead of Stanford QB Andrew Luck, the runner-up. There was no doubt Newton would win the Heisman. Whether he gets to keep it is still uncertain.
Do you have any concerns with the NCAA investigation into your recruitment that you'd have to give yours back as well?
2 letters for you, my friend. No.
After sewing up the Heisman, Newton is focused on delivering the first national championship to the Tigers trophy case since 1957.
I'm excited about, taking this championship team and, we have a chance of doing something great in Auburn.
Newton has January 10th circled on his calendar. Cam Newton is something else this year in the NFL. We'll see if Andrew Luck and company, if those guys can make a statement. Ian Begley, I don't want to rain on our parade, but this has been an interesting Sports NYC. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Bobby, it's been great. Thank you for having me.
Great stuff. When we come back, we'll have more football action right here on Sports NYC.
Up, college is hard. Down, those books are heavy.
My sport is football, but my passion is education.
Right up here.
So every year I take promising high schoolers on a college tour
Lights there, darts there.
to show them that higher education means a brighter future. My name is Nnamdi Asamoah. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
You can be a reader, tutor, or mentor too. Take the pledge at liveunited.org/volunteer.
Do you wear this?
Welcome back to Sports NYC. I'm Bobby C. The beauty of television, we go from Metlife Stadium to Clinton High School, where we get a chance to catch up with Coach Howard Langley and star quarterback Ryan Camilo. You guys had a fantastic season. Welcome to the show. Very excited to have you on.
Pleasure being here.
We'll start with you, Coach. This year, the team finishes 8-4, the last remaining Bronx school in the Final Four for the PSAL title. Great season. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it was a tremendous season for us. It started off with Ryan coming to us from Cardinal Hayes High School, which, really made us happy because it gave us an opportunity to do something that we hadn't done in a long time, which is to make it to the semifinals. Our goal each year is to beat Kennedy, make it to the playoffs, and then try to win the championship. So we got 2/3 of those goals done this year.
Coach, where does this team rank for you? I know you've been here for a long time. Bronx guy yourself. You played at Clinton High School. You've been able to come back and a tremendous amount of success here. Where does this team rank?
Well, this team has to rank up there. The last time Clinton High School made it to the semifinals and then the finals was 1989, which was actually my first year as a coach with Coach Prezioso, who was a coach here for 30 years. And it's our first time back to that level since then, I think about 22 years. So it has to rank up there with the very best. But, in moving forward, we will see where that holds because our goal is always to try to go and win the big one.
Ryan, what made you decide to come to Clinton High School?
Clinton is close to my house, and as a kid, I always used to come to the games and watch the game and, talk to Coach Langley. And I was actually supposed to come at the end of my 8th grade year. And I actually decided to go to Cardinal Hayes because my mother and father thought the education would be better. And, it's been a good experience here, though. I actually wish I could have been here all 4 years.
You had a tremendous performance in the game leading up to the semifinal. You guys defeated Fort Hamilton 16-8, well over 100 yards of offense from you. Can you talk about that particular game and then some of the highlights from the season?
It was a big game for us. It was very emotional, and the coaches put us in a great position to win. And we practiced hard all week, and we needed to get out of the slump. We needed to get to the next round, and we did that. Everyone played great. All the coaches coached very well.
How much pride is there right now for you, knowing that this team went as far as it did, and you've accomplished so much in the time that you've been here?
It's a great pleasure. Just being in this position for me is fulfilling because, my goal being an educator is to be a role model. There aren't a lot of people that look like me in this position in the city or just in New York. So given the opportunity to be in front of these guys and to be on a daily, constant process of trying to make things better for them, and the end result of it being a good football season is good. But there's so many more things behind the scenes that, newspapers are not going to cover.
I'm very impressed by Ryan, not just on the football field. I got a chance to talk to him before we came on today, and very focused on academics, very focused on the future and where he's going to go to school and some of the things that he's interested in. Again, if you can talk about him and what he meant to this team this year.
What he brought was a sense of self. And when you have that as a quarterback and in a leadership position, it really gives calm to the other guys. So when he was on the field, the kids were very comfortable. And, he had a very good sense of pride, which showed as well. So when your pride comes off in a very calm sense, the other teammates can feed off it. It wasn't bravado. It wasn't selfishness. It was just a very good leadership quality in him that came to fruition every time he played. Very smart kid. We were just talking before you came about the future, and it's interesting to me when someone is interested in having a career that's nurturing to others. He talked about possibly being a teacher or being a nurse, and when you have that kind of a mindset, that tells me that you care about others, and you go a long way with those kind of thoughts.
Ryan, what would be the message that you would give to maybe another young boy from the Bronx that's deciding on where to go to school and why he should come to Clinton and play football here?
If you come to Clinton, you'll be in for a lot. You'll meet a lot of different personalities and a lot of people who care for you. When I first came, they showed me a lot. They showed me how to be a better person rather than a football player. But I recommend students to come to Clinton. They'll get a good education, and they'll learn a lot of life lessons.
I think it's fair to say that the Governors are the pride of Bronx football. Your coach gave you a lot of credit for this season. What would you like to say about your coach?
Well, Coach Langley's he's a great man. He's actually a longtime friend with my father, and my father talked very highly about him. He said his main focus was to educate, and like he said, he taught me a lot of things, and he's actually one of the reasons I would become a teacher. He's inspired me to do a lot of things with my life.
And then again, what's next for you?
College, just going on to the next level and being successful.
Talk about the rich tradition of Clinton High School football.
Oh, Clinton High School football is over a century old. Tremendous players over the years. Our most highly decorated gentleman is Sam Garnes. Sam Garnes played here, graduated in, I believe, 91, went on to University of Cincinnati, and then started for the Giants and the Jets. I think he's currently on the coaching staff of the Denver Broncos. And, Sam is Clinton history at his best. And, we have another player right now who's playing in the Canadian League with Montreal, and they won 2 Grey Cups, Ramon Guzman. So, we've had our share of success. Unfortunately, we haven't won the big one in terms of the city title yet, but, that's our goal in working towards that.
What is next for Clinton football?
Well, hopefully for us, we can just continue to have success. It's been a chore trying to put a team together every year, not having a feeder program where kids are coming to us with football experience, and also not having the facilities in terms of a massive weight room to really develop the kids the way we'd like them to. But we don't complain. We work with what we have, and we just continue to move forward, and hopefully, if we can nurture kids and have them move on, and, the best stories are the ones you don't hear about. Ryan, fantastic, but there are kids on the team who would have never played football, who are now looking to go on to college just as a result of the experience they've had with us.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program today. I know Yankee Stadium will come a-calling next year. Very, very optimistic about the future of the Governors.
Thank you. Appreciate the chance.
The Governors certainly have Yankee Stadium to look forward to, hopefully next year. We take a look back in our latest Sports NYC rewind of Army Rutgers, who shined at the house that George Steinbrenner built recently. Army took center stage at Yankee Stadium in a revival of a storied history for college football in the Bronx, especially for the cadets from West Point. The Black Knights returned to the BX Saturday. This time, Army was searching for redemption. Rutgers stood in its way. The Knights would joust at the ballpark, with Army striking for 6 first-quarter points on 2 field goals, and Rutgers responding with a late second-quarter TD that should have given the Scarlet Knights the lead following the extra point. But a missed point-after touchdown, and the two went into the half tied at 6. Flash forward, freshman wide receiver Brandon Coleman nabbed a 38-yard strike for a 13-6 lead at 11:20 in the third, and Rutgers was back in business.
Oh man, this is an emotional moment, just to come out here before the game and just watch, just take pictures and see. I've never been here before. I'm not even from here, so just to see that was just amazing.
Army would respond in the third on a Larry Dixon rushing TD, and this time a missed PAT by the Black Knights held them back. Trailing 13-12, Army couldn't slow Rutgers, which had picked up steam in the fourth quarter. Rutgers added a pair of late TDs for a 27-12 final.
God bless the guys. They're hanging together and they're fighting hard. They're devastated, but they're so close.
7-3 Rutgers now finds itself a half game out of first place.
There's a lot of momentum building, and we will take this and out-prepare ourselves from the previous weeks and look forward to a great game at home.
Scores aside, the afternoon was truly about the experience for both.
The guys love playing here. I mean, it's an exciting place to walk into. We're in the locker room, and especially our guys that grow up playing baseball, the ones that have a baseball background. They were tourists there for a while.
I told them, I said, enjoy it, soak it up, take your, they worry, can we take pictures? Take your phones out and then when you walk back down those steps, get ready to play.
It was just a great atmosphere, considering the Yankees are my favorite team. It was definitely a pleasure, and playing here it was definitely a dream come true.
In the end, today was a victory for the visitors and the borough of the Bronx as well. This is Bobby C. reporting from Yankee Stadium. What a game. Look for Rutgers to possibly advance to the Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium on December 30th. We wrap the show here from Clinton High School with another great debate in our latest C-List. What is the greatest game ever played in Bronx sports history? Well, folks, I'll take the 1958 championship game right at Yankee Stadium between the Baltimore Colts and the New York Giants. The Colts would prevail in overtime, the first championship game to ever be played with an extra period. The game featured so many of the all-time greats, from Johnny Unitas to the Bronx's own Art Donovan, and of course New York Giant greats Frank Gifford and Sam Huff. Is the 1958 NFL Championship game the best ever? We want to hear from you, so log on to our Facebook at facebook.com/sportsnyc or hit me up on Twitter at The Voice Bobby C. Until next time, stay 5 borough strong, stay Bronx strong.